if I know like they're this attachment style, I know their needs.
The anxious chases and the avoidant runs. The avoidant doesn't want to take care of someone else.
Interesting. And I was saying like, oh, I don't know, like boundaries seem so negative and bad.
It's not that I wasn't enough or that they were just like narcissists or whatever. I mean, maybe they were, like maybe some of them, but it is helpful being able to reach a place of grace.
Amen. Hey, you guys. Welcome back to the Hey Girl, Hey Pod. I'm your host, Kay.
And I'm Lori.
Miss Lori.
Yes,
what
ma'am.
has been your enchantment this week?
So with it being cooler weather, or actually it hasn't been, but
I know we're trying to like fake it.
Yeah, we're
faking fall.
Yes. Well, it's September, so I'm like, you know what? I can't wait any longer. It's been over 100 days since I've ridden my motorcycle. Is it rode or ridden? I don't know.
I don't. You could say anything, and I'll believe you.
Since I've gone on a motorcycle ride. So we did that this week, and it was enchanting.
Dude, that's awesome. That's so cool that that's your hobby that you can share with Brandon. Wait, is that your guys' thing?
That's our thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if Kai and I have a thing. I think we're still trying to figure out our thing. For instance, he loves golf. Mm-hmm. Me don't like golf, and golf doesn't like me. It hurt my back.
But you go.
I do. I film him.
Yeah.
I'm there for nice little golf clap, and I'm supportive. But yeah, we haven't really found our thing yet. Our thing maybe is eating. We love to eat.
There you go. You both got to eat.
Maybe cooking, but that's more his thing.
Yeah. Well, motorcycling is more Brandon's thing, but like, I mean, I like it, but like he's been riding since he was, I kid you not, like 3. Like he had like a little tiny,
that is so
moped,
cute,
like a toddler one.
Yeah.
Or one that a kid could ride. And so it's like second nature to him. Like he's doing all these tricks on his bike, like doing the like, I don't know, the swerve, and it scares me. And like the wheelie or is it wheelies? Yeah, wheelies. Yeah. And it freaks me out, but it's just because it's like second nature to him.
That's awesome.
And I enjoy it, but like I am very cautious.
Yeah.
I'm very cautious. Like I don't speed on my bike.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Girl, when you told me at first that you were riding motorcycles and getting into that, I was so afraid for you. I think people at our work was like, no, don't do that. Like that's crazy. But I think it's so cool.
Yeah. Well, it's just on trend with me. I'm always concerning people at work with my decisions. We talked about whenever I got engaged to Brandon, and everyone was like,
bro, I'm dead. Whatever. You gotta live your life.
I didn't fit in.
Despite the haters. What was I gonna say? Oh, yes. Okay, my enchantment is similar to yours. Y'all, I woke up this morning. I was looking at the sky, like as I was waking up and driving over to work, and I'm like, the sky looks like fall. And I might sound crazy, but it was like this different, like hazy sky, like dusk.
Yeah.
And it got me so excited. Like just seeing the sky like that, I'm like, oh my gosh, the season is changing. And I was talking on the phone with Kai on my way to work, and he was like, okay, I guess the sky is different. I'm like, no, babe, the sky really does look different. He was looking at it and he's like, oh, I guess you're right. It does kind of look different. So that just got me so excited for fall.
It's probably because it's just like whenever you're used to driving to work, you're used to already being brighter.
Yes.
And now it's just taking longer to rise.
True. Yeah, no, that makes sense because I'm an early bird. And now when I wake up, there's barely light. And then I know as we get into wintertime, it's going to be dark, especially when I drive to work. I'm not excited for that.
That's the worst.
That is the
trying
worst.
to wake up whenever the sky is still dark, it just doesn't feel natural.
No, never.
And then whenever it's dark and you're still at work, that's the worst.
That's true.
I hate that.
Like when you
feel like the day's already over and you're still at work.
When you're working and like the sun's already down and it's 4:45, 5 o'clock, you're like, what is happening? I need to get home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the worst.
I mean, it doesn't affect me anymore, but
yeah. I mean, the dark sky just makes me so anxious.
Love that. She slid right into the topic, guys.
Just teeing it up, y'all, for you. Take it away. Girl.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone's like, what?
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because the title gives it away, but I'm just so excited to talk about this topic because it has forever changed my life. I know we have talked about it a little bit because it affects us even at times in our friendship, like whenever we've never really had conflict, but like it's just something to be mindful of in any relationship or friendship that you're in. It's attachment type. I recommend extensively studying this. Whenever we were in our fostering college, we had to study this a lot because foster kids are sometimes hard to understand, and having a knowledge about this can help with navigating those harder relationships.
Yeah. And I'm also so excited to talk about this too. And I don't know too much about this, but it has come up in my therapy session. And anytime I'm talking about a situation or, you know, my behaviors or how other people react to certain things in my life, my therapist is always like, oh, it's because of their attachment, or it's because of your attachment. I'm like, what? And we'll dive into it. So I know kind of the framework of my knowledge of attachment is based off of my own attachment. But I'm so excited to just dive into this, learn more. And also I feel learning about attachment styles helps you obviously understand your own, and thus understanding others, like you said. And this can be relatable to any type of relationship, platonic, romantic, you know, any spectrum. And then it gives you more grace for yourself, more love for yourself, and then grace and love for others.
100%. It's so interesting because once you understand this, like, it's almost like you can just like pinpoint, you know, they're an avoidant, or they're an anxious, or even this person is just secure or whatever. So
and not to like, I don't know, diagnose people or whatever in like a negative way too, like, oh, it's because they're, you know, XYZ, but just being like, oh, most likely like this is where this is coming from. So how can I help better communicate to them, better assist them? Or if I know like they're this attachment style, I know their needs. And so how can I meet their needs to help better the situation and letting them know where I'm coming from?
100%. And again, it is helpful being able to reach a place of grace.
Amen.
That's really what it is. I can't tell you how many times someone has told me, oh, my partner is a narcissist, or they lack empathy, they're, you know, a psychopath, blah, blah, blah.
Wait, can I say something? Sorry.
Sure.
I don't know what it is with our culture today. I feel like we just flippantly say these labels.
Yes, it's so annoying to me.
It is. Okay.
New hot take. Yes.
New ick unlocked. I'm just like people in my own sphere too. And I'll be honest. I'll even catch myself saying like, oh, this person's just a narcissist. First of all, I'll be honest. I don't even know what that all entails. Yeah. I'm just saying it because, you know, it's like the thing nowadays.
Yes.
Or any negative behavior I don't like. I'm like, oh, they're just being a narcissist. I'm like, okay, girl.
Just because you don't like them does not make them a narcissist.
Yeah, like really understanding how much weight that word is and how serious, or even like, yes, oh, they're acting like a psychopath. Like, I know, again, I'm calling myself out. Like, I've used that word and it's just like, what are we doing?
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah. And to take that even further, being a narcissist is an actual medical diagnosis, and same with antisocial.
Really?
So there's antisocial personality disorder, and we're going off topic.
I know. I'm sorry.
I do want to like, you know, preface this. Like, this is why this, just understanding this affects so many areas of your life. And again, it's to have grace on someone or on other people. But like antisocial, whenever you say, oh, I'm just antisocial, or they're antisocial, like, it's kind of like a pop culture term because it's called antisocial personality disorder, and antisocial personality disorder is what being a sociopath or a psychopath is. So like, it's like the actual like psychological diagnosis. So they're not diagnosed like a sociopath or a psychopath. That's just more of like, that's more descriptive of having antisocial personality disorder, or ASPD.
Interesting.
And same with a narcissist.
Yeah.
There's an actual diagnosis if you're a narcissist. So just throwing that label around, like,
oh my gosh,
it's a heavy label, and people need to stop. Like, let's normalize, or let's denormalize saying that.
Dude, I agree. Yeah.
Anyway, so I guess just to get into it, to simplify, I want to simplify this because there are several attachment styles, but ultimately there are 3 encompassing attachment styles. There's secure, which everyone wants to be there, and that's the goal.
Yeah, that's the goal.
So whatever your attachment style is, I will say, like, just because you're one of these that isn't secure, it doesn't mean that you're never going to be secure. You can just work on it. Once you understand what you are, you can work on it and fix it, fix whatever the problem is, the underlying problem, and then you can become secure. So secure is the goal. And then there's anxious, and then there's avoidant, just to simplify everything. So 60% of the population is secure, which I think is a very hopeful stat.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And like give or take a few percentage points, but like, you know, in general, there's about 60% of the population is secure. So that's pretty good odds when dating.
There's hope, y'all.
Yeah. Like just, you know, avoid the other 40%.
Screaming.
If you can.
No.
I'm just kidding. But anxious and avoidant are split 20-20.
Okay. You want to just dive into what each are?
Yes. So this all stems from whenever you're a baby or a young child. So under the age of 2 is when you develop your attachment style. And that basically just describes how you are able to go to your caretaker or your parent for your needs to be met. As a baby, like we all have needs. We're completely dependent on your caretaker. So whenever a baby would cry or, you know, try to get fed or emotional comfort, and the child would reach out to the caretaker, how the caretaker would respond is what formed each individual's attachment style. You know, if the caretaker was attentive and was emotionally available, then the child would be able to create a secure attachment.
Yeah.
So they basically know, like, okay, whenever I have a need, my caretaker is going to be there for me. I don't have to stress or worry about whether my needs are going to be met or not. And that's not to say that, like, you know, all like the parents were always 100% perfect. Like sometimes a baby needs to cry for a little bit. Like if you cried as a child, it's okay. It doesn't mean that you have insecure attachment or avoidant attachment, but you know, in general, if the caretaker was there, then and the needs were met, that's the population that has a secure attachment in general. But then whenever the needs of the infant and child aren't being met, you could either become avoidant or anxious. So just how the nervous system responds to cope with not having their needs being met, it could go one way or the other. With avoidant, essentially they realize that the caretaker is not going to meet their needs, and so they internalize that as there's a problem with my caretaker. I can take care of myself, or I'm not going to expect to be taken care of by an external party.
Yeah.
And so how that translates in adulthood is it's those people who they can get in relationships, but they're always kind of looking for a reason why they should get out of the relationship and why they're going to fail them or like not meet their needs.
Yeah. Like they view others as like not dependable, not safe.
Yep. And the problem, because that can be true, but the problem is whenever there is no reason for them to feel that way. It's just that it like stems from trauma. So even if they're in a relationship with someone who is secure and treats them well in the relationship, because of their attachment style, they just have this like preconceived belief that their partner is not going to be dependable.
So avoidant is fear of closeness, distant and withdrawn, avoids conflict, extreme independence, emotionally distant, unresponsive to partner, and very logical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I find interesting is that avoidant attachments can usually be mistaken for secure attachment just because they're very independent.
Self-reliant.
Yeah. Exactly. But as we know, in a healthy relationship, You need to be interdependent.
Yeah.
And they're just so afraid of being codependent.
Yeah.
Like they avoid emotional intimacy like the plague. They're always looking for a reason to not depend on someone. They, like you said, they want to be overly independent.
Yeah.
And that stems from being afraid of not having their needs met, because whenever they were an infant, their needs weren't met.
Yeah, they were essentially abandoned. Man.
Exactly. Another way, in other words, another way you can say it is that they feel like they are good, like they're okay, they're fine by themselves, but others are not okay.
Others are bad.
Yes.
Yeah, to put it plainly.
Like others are like, there's danger associated with them, but there's safety within themselves, and then there's danger with others.
Yeah.
So they have a very positive view of themselves, but a negative view of others.
Yeah.
So that's why it's hard for them to be in a relationship.
I see.
And then anxious attachment is the complete opposite.
Ding, ding, ding. Is where your girl comes in, y'all.
Oh, no, same. Actually, I wanted to wait to say our attachments, but...
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. No, it's totally fine. But, I mean, honestly, if people have been with us long enough, they probably already have a...
Yeah. They probably already self-diagnosed us by watching.
Yeah.
Just kidding, but honestly.
So sad.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anxious is opposite because they feel that they cannot regulate themselves. They can't self-soothe. They feel a negative view of themselves, but a positive view of others. Mm-hmm. So with their parent, or their caretaker, they felt like they were perfect.
Yeah.
But there was something wrong with them, so they couldn't get their needs met. Mm-hmm. So again, negative self-view, positive external view of others. Mm-hmm. Another way I like to explain anxious attachment is that they're always trying to close the gap between them and their partner. So whenever there's conflict or they feel some type of like an energy shift, like if the attention isn't on them, they're... Why are you
sorry,
laughing?
I'm laughing because this is just hitting home
Do you
right
feel
now.
called out?
Oh, yeah.
So then they want to call the attention back to them. They're always trying to close the gap. And the problem with that is like, you know, you can make your partner feel smothered.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in a relationship with avoidant attachment. They're going to feel chased and like claustrophobic in the relationship.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how these attachment styles tend to find
each other?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's called, I believe it's called the anxious avoidant loop.
Really?
Yeah, because the anxious chases and the avoidant runs.
Cat and mouse?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Exactly. And it's very true that anxious attachment will typically pursue an avoidant because they look at them like they're strong and independent and they can take care of themselves, which means they can take care of them. Not realizing that the avoidant doesn't want to take care of someone else.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love this. For anxious, some of the characteristics are relationship insecurities, fear of abandonment, whew, y'all, lack of boundaries, mood fluctuation, highly sensitive, and overly accommodating.
Yep. Like people pleasing.
Yeah.
And again, it stems from fear of abandonment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's interesting that the avoidant would rather abandon, and in fact is like always looking for a reason to abandon, which is why like it is just such a toxic relationship dynamic.
Yeah.
So I will I don't know if I might have already said this, but whenever I talk with friends or with whoever and they describe their dynamic in their relationship and like, you know, they're having problems and stuff, I always see that it's usually because the person is anxious in a relationship with an avoidant.
Yeah.
And so they just feel like their person is, again, a narcissist, unempathetic, like just doesn't care about them. But that's not the case. It's just that they're both traumatized people.
Yeah. So yeah, I just love how it's not like, oh, well, I guess we can kind of go into this, but you know, anyone watching that's like, man, I'm definitely avoidant, or oh, I'm definitely anxious. I love how it just doesn't end there. There's hope in A, having awareness, and B, working towards being more secure.
Yeah.
And it sounds like to me, the being secure, the secure attachment style is almost like the yin and yang, having both. Like, oh, I'm safe. I'm a good person. Or not even a good person. Like, I'm safe. I can rely on myself. People are safe and I can rely on people.
Yeah.
So instead of it being competing, it's both of just trusting yourself and trusting others. Some of the characteristics of a secure person: someone who's warm and caring, trusting and forgiving, good boundaries. I love how they put good boundaries, because boundaries are good.
Yep.
I used to think like, oh, boundaries are not needed, or they're bad, or I had like a negative view of boundaries.
Yeah. And then it's like interesting, sorry to cut you
No,
off,
you're
but
good.
it's interesting how you can flip. And again, like why avoidant is usually misdiagnosed as secure is because they're really, they're experts at having boundaries. But the problem is that their boundaries are so strong to where they don't let people in. And that's what the intent is. They put boundaries up because they don't want to let others in.
Yeah, I'm almost picturing like a castle with like tall walls. Like, that's avoidant.
Exactly.
And then,
like a heart wall.
Yes, but then a boundary of a secure person would be like almost like a farm, like a nice
picket fence
where you can see through.
Yeah.
And then it's inviting, and there's a little gate.
That's cute.
To letting others in who are safe, but the people that are, not safe, there's still a boundary there. So yeah,
that's a wonderful illustration.
Thank you, girl.
Yeah, because you want to have that fence up to protect to protect yourself, to protect your property and what's yours and all of that. But you also want to let people in. You don't want it to be like a fortress where people cannot get in.
Yeah. And this just sparked a memory, but in one of my sessions with my therapist, and we talked about boundaries and how they're needed in healthy relationships. And I was saying like, oh, I don't know, like boundaries seem so negative and bad, especially telling someone like, hey, these are my boundaries. But she said, think of it like a castle. If some people are going to be able to go across your drawbridge. So, you determine if somebody's safe or not. Okay, I'll let them in. So you lower the drawbridge, and then you get to know them more. And it's like, okay, actually, let's come into my castle, come into my life. And then there's some people like you, Lori, our friendship is so safe. I can tell you anything. Like, I can be my 100 authentic self. So you're in like my secret chamber.
I have the password.
Yes. Like if there's, I don't know, just things that not everyone gets to see or know about me. That's like almost like a secret passageway with a door of like almost like a speakeasy, like the library. And it's like, ooh, what's this? It's like, no, not everyone gets to go in there.
Yeah,
only the super safe people. And then at any moment, which I love that she said this, is like you get to determine who can be in the castle and also who can be escorted out. Like, hey, at once in my life, you were safe, but now not so much. So, there's the door, and now here's the drawbridge, and you're outside, and I'm letting up the drawbridge. So boundaries can be flexible as well, depending on the person or where you're at in your life.
100%.
So anyway, that's something I definitely needed to hear.
Thanks for letting me into your speakeasy.
Of course, girl. Anytime. And then more traits of a secure person. They manage their emotions well. They're responsive, honest, and open, which, again, I think, like you said, that's the goal. And all hope is not lost if you're like listening to this and, you're listening to the different types. You're like, ooh, I'm definitely avoidant, or ooh, I'm definitely anxious. Awareness is a beautiful thing, and that's step one.
Awareness is key. Consciousness, like just bringing light to the issue, and like, like why I'm so passionate about this, just to make it personal, and how I claim that it changed my life, but it really has. And this is why I was often in that anxious avoidant loop And I'm self-diagnosing. I really believe that I was anxious attachment because I meet all the symptoms and criteria. And I was in relationships with avoidance. And how that affected me is that I felt just so unlovable. I felt like, again, the problem was me instead of it being them. Yeah. But the unhealthy way of saying that I'm the problem. Like for me, I was always thinking like, oh, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not fun enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not, whatever enough. Like I am not enough.
Yeah. And
now I realize it's not that I wasn't enough or that they were just like narcissists or whatever. I mean, maybe they were, like maybe some of them, but I really do believe that they were just avoidant.
Yeah.
And like that helps me to have grace on myself. It helps me to have grace on them. Like not as hard feelings. Like I'm able to just kind of like forgive the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes me, I don't know, like whenever I can pinpoint it, I'm like, oh, I think they might be struggling with this, or I think this is where they're at currently. To me, I'm like, oh, I think back to like that little boy or that little girl, and I'm like, man, their needs weren't met. And it just makes me sad. Like, I don't know, I guess it shows like the brokenness of humanity.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, it would be an amazing thing if we all grew up in homes that are just so secure. And it's also crazy how the enemy attacks homes like that and then it follows you into adulthood. Like that's just what's so crazy. Those first developmental years as a child mean so much. And I'm thankful that transformation is possible once you are an adult. Like you can choose to be secure and make decisions that break that pattern.
100%. Like I know that I have worked on this so much that I know that I have like a leaning towards anxious still, but I do feel like, and again, being in a relationship with Brandon, who I will say I 100% believe that he's secure. I know that I've worked on this a lot, and I will say I feel like I've developed a lot of the secure attachment
100%
style.
Me being in a relationship with you as well, being in friendship, platonic relationship, I can 100% say without a doubt. And plus, you have just so much awareness. So
thanks.
Yeah, no, you really do. And okay, I will provide an example of this. I remember one time.
What is it?
I know you say we don't have conflict, but no, we really don't. There was I can remember one time where it was actually, we were recording our last episode of season 2. Y'all, I was in such a weird headspace, and I was getting in my head of, it was almost like I wasn't present while recording. I just had like this bird's eye view of what I was saying. So I was so aware of what I was saying, and I'm like, that sounds dumb. What you're saying is dumb. Nobody's going to relate to this. Like, why'd you even start this podcast? Like, and honestly, that probably was the enemy or just my own insecurity. I was feeling very insecure. And I remember turning to you after we recorded, and I'm like, that was bad. Let's just scrap it. Like, it's horrible. And I'm just like, no, I don't want to release the episode. And you were so encouraging and so patient with me. And you're like, Kaylin, this episode's great. What we talked about is great. You're great. Like, what is the problem? And I had to talk about it with Kai. And you both helped me to see that I was just being insecure.
Yeah.
And I remember I think I just didn't respond to one of your voice texts because I was still processing. And then you sent me another voice text. You're like, hey, this is just like my anxious attachment style coming through, or this is just me being anxious, but I just want to let you know, like, I love you so much. And you were just putting affirmations. You're like, I love our friendship. Like, podcast aside, like, I want to make sure we're okay. And I needed to hear that.
Aww.
I needed to hear that. And plus I needed to hear that to know, to understand how you were feeling, as well as how, like, obviously I didn't have a problem with you or us. It wasn't an us thing. It was a me thing, but I didn't know how to communicate that yet. Like, I didn't know I was feeling insecure So it might have come across like, oh, I'm mad at you or something. But obviously that wasn't the case. But I loved how you opened the door. That's just you being vulnerable. Like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. I want to understand how you're feeling. And that's what it felt like. It's just you opening the door for more intimacy. So I'm just
interdependent.
Yes. I'm just so thankful that you did that. And so that's like a practical way of just being like, hey, like, I want to understand what you're feeling, or, you know, what triggered you to maybe respond this way. That wasn't my intention. What I meant is X, Y, Z. And just opening up that window for dialogue. It was just so huge for our friendship. Yeah. Thanks. I love you, girl. No, it's a big deal. Because you've even inspired me of just like saying, hey, like, this is just, I just want to let you know, I love you so much. And I just want to understand where you're coming from. And, when I said this, I meant this, or when I did this, I just want to let you know it's X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Like, you modeled that perfectly.
Thanks. That's so encouraging, because as a recovering anxious attachment
yes,
type,
girl.
like how we were saying, like, it's like a balance. Like, you don't want to be like too needy and too like smothering and like, hey, text me back right now. Can we get on the phone call right now? Like, and as I am recovering from anxious attachment type, like, a past me would have been like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Where are you? And like, I think that you were at a dinner with your family. Like, it was literally like 4 days before Christmas. And also, side note, that was the day I got my Harley. That Brandon presented my Harley to me. And I was like, it was amazing. And I was so happy and elated. But at the same time, in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, great. Kaylin, are we good? Yeah. So like, it's just finding that balance of like, yes, you want to check in on your person, and you want to make sure that you guys are good, because it's not just like not caring. Like, it's not just saying like, oh, well, they have the problem, or, like, they're the problem, like, I'm fine on my own. Like, you don't want to be too far on that spectrum and be avoidant. Yes. But you also, sometimes you need to give your person space. Like, sometimes they just need to digest things. Yeah. And that's okay.
It is okay. Yeah. I think, again, just communication. Yeah. Yeah. So anytime
healthy communication.
Yes. Like, whenever I'm faced with that, like, oh, I think this is what's going on. I feel this way. Let me communicate that. I always think back to that, of how you did it. Cause I'm like, I just loved it. Yeah. I felt so seen. And I also just felt so taken care of. And I don't know. It just was something that I've never had not that I never had in a friendship, but I can't think of a time where someone came to me with such humility and was like, hey, this is what I'm feeling, and I just want to make sure that we're good, and I love you.
That's going to make me cry.
I love you.
I feel it welling up.
No, and also, I'm going to get emotional too. I just want to sob today. But I don't know. I think it's also important to let your friends know where they excel at. And Lori, that's something that you really excel at.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're just the best. I'm like, ooh, girl, I love you.
Man. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I guess we could just leave it at that.
I know. I love it. Yeah. But hey, feel free to comment your thoughts and let us know how this has shown up in your life, and, anything encouraging or anything you want to share with us. We definitely want to hear about it.
Yes, please. Let's continue the conversation in the comments.
Yeah, like, guys, we love reading your comments, including the hate comments.
Honestly, I'm here for it all. Like, but again, like, hey, let's be healthy communication.
Yes, no,
like,
for sure.
Let's have a conversation.
Yeah. Not that, No, I like to joke around.
I'm fine with all the conversation.
Yeah.
But if you disagree with something, or like,
oh yeah, we want to hear
something
that
wrong,
too.
like, correct us.
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess we forgot to do a disclaimer, but we're not experts in this subject. We're just speaking on our own experiences per usual. Yeah. And just, our different takeaways from our therapy sessions and
the foster college.
Yeah. Which also, wait, maybe we can end on this, because I want to know, and I keep forgetting to ask you, where are you and Brandon at with fostering?
Oh, okay. So I wasn't going to bring this up, but it has been on my mind. Oh, no, it's fine. Cool. Like, because I knew that we were going to bring up our enchanting thing, and I'm like, what if we did, like, I think you called it like a rose and a thorn or whatever from the week.
Yeah.
So my rose was the weather and cycling again. But the thorn is it's not that big of a deal, but where I'm at with the fostering is we just heard back from the state, and they the process is being held up because the foster agency didn't check in with us in 3 months. So like basically there was like a period of 3 months where they didn't physically come to our home, and so they just want an explanation from the licensing agency of like why that is, and they need to come and like visit and just make sure that everything's still fine.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm like, nothing that we can do, like it's not held up on our end, but we just heard that like yesterday.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, like they make you jump through so many hoops to become licensed. Like if it's not one thing, it's another thing, and then you think that you resolve everything, and then all of a sudden it's just something else that's weird.
It's like whack-a-mole. It's like, come on now. Yeah,
exactly. So that's just that. It's just like another like, okay, like now, and again, it's fine. Like let's just bring it back to God's timing. Like obviously,
girl, I was just about to say that. I'm like, it sounds like
yeah,
the Lord's setting you up for something amazing in the right time.
Yeah. Thanks.
That's really exciting.
Thanks for that reassurance.
Yeah,
but
of
that's
course,
where we're
girl.
at.
Well, awesome. Well, we'll obviously keep you updated on that, and we hope you keep us updated. But yeah, you guys, thank you again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye. Guys.